Hi, welcome to Learn to RV, the podcast. You are here for our community spotlight episode. And today I am so excited to introduce you guys to Jess Walker. She is one half of the Walkers Wandering duo. And then she is also just the brilliant mastermind, the award winning consultant behind, I'm going to get this right, Jess Lifestyle Marketing.
Yes.
And Jess, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to just talk about all things RV and marketing and all the funs. Thanks for having me on.
No. Yes. So let's ease it on down the road. Let's talk about how did you guys start RVing? When did this journey start for you guys?
Well, when our kids were little, we did a lot of camping. It was always fun to do. And then they got older and we lived in Florida. So we did, you know, a step away from it for a while and did boating and then came back to it when the girls were grown. They're both adults now. We have 2 daughters. And my husband retired from his career in 2022 and we did some long road trips. And while we were doing those in our gas class A at the time, we found so many people were living full time on the road. And the only thing at that point in time holding us to our house in Southwest Florida was a job that I was working in corporate. We did a couple of long trips to make sure we could, stand being in a small space. We could spend 24 hours a day together because you really have to like the person you're with or the family you're with if you're
Yes.
traveling with more than one person. And we just really enjoyed it. And so in 2023, yeah, I think after that trip, we decided we were going to do it. And we took a whole year to prepare because figuring out mail, doctor's appointments, residency, stuff like that. And then we sold our house in April of 2024 because the only thing, like I said, that kept us in Southwest Florida was a corporate job that it was going through some changes. So it was not the right fit as much anymore for me. And, they needed somebody more full time too. So it was just a time for me to kind of launch my own business, which is what we did once we hit the road. April will be 2 years that we've been traveling full time and we've just loved it. We have one daughter in Florida, one daughter in Washington State. So this is perfect for us to kind of travel between the two. He's retired, so he helps with the business, like bookkeeping and stuff like that I have. I do the consulting, but we just kind of enjoy life on the road and explore so many different places. This country is so much to see. And we
Yeah.
just, it's nice. And the other thing that helps too is, if family needs us or somebody needs us, we're mobile, we can get to them and be where we need to be for an extended amount of time. We don't have to get home to mow a yard or fix the pool or do anything like that. So it just gives us a lot of
Yeah.
freedom to do what we want to do. But we never thought we'd be doing it. It's the two of us and our dog. And like I said, when we travel, we get to see our kids a lot. And then when we also travel and they want to go to some of these places, it's nice as well because they fly in and hang out with us for a few days in the camper and then fly back. So they're kind of getting to fly along with us on some of this.
That's fun. That's really
Yeah.
fun. So,
Yeah.
when you guys have been out on the road for this kind of stretch of time, what's been like I mean, because you do have like far southeast coast and then you got far northwest coast as kind of like your pivot points with the girls. So, in between those points, what are you guys searching for whenever you're finding stops or you're making kind of points of interest to go and visit? What are the things that
Yeah,
catch your guys' attention?
we love when we find places to hike and bike and, just be outdoors. That's where we really thrive and
Yeah.
what we love to do. And that's what we seek. We want to see the national parks. We want to see state parks, love county parks. I mean, we go to any of them that we can find. So a lot of our trips tend to be around maybe some of those bigger national parks. And then you look at the map in between to figure out, okay, what are some spots that'll be just as fun in between? And that's been an another part of the journey that we didn't really expect is we stumble on so many small towns and places that we just didn't know about, didn't think about, and we love them. Like there's a small town called Wallace, Idaho, and never heard of it. We've been to it 3 times and it's just this tiny little town that's probably maybe 3 miles all together. And, we love it. Like we can do a lot of outdoor stuff there with the biking and hiking around and stuff like that. So we look for those types of things and then build the extended trip around that. And of course,
Mhm.
being in an RV and those that travel in an RV know this happens. Sometimes maintenance issues come up, sometimes repairs, and you have to be able to kind of change your plans and do things like that. And sometimes that changes the route where we have to go and see a maintenance shop somewhere else. So then we're rerouting. But really, we just love the outdoors. And so if we can be hiking and biking, that's just our happiest place to be.
That's awesome. So how many states have you guys been to? Do you know?
In the lower 48, I'm looking at our map, we are just shy of 5. So all in all, we've done, yeah, in lower 48, we've done the 43 of them. So 43 states.
Holy crow. So you guys have not slowed down. You are you're on a mission.
Yeah, we do. We realized that very first year, everybody falls into this, I'm sure, when they're excited about a first big trip and they make all these stops and they make all these plans. And then you get on the road and what you didn't plan for was your quote unquote weekends or your down days. When we did that first retirement
Yeah.
trip, we were 3 months on the road. And I think the longest stop was like 4 nights. And that was rare because we were moving. So we learned after that, we're like, okay, we need to program extra down days in this as
Yeah.
well so that we can just recoup and rest up. And so we do travel pretty quickly. We've slowed it down still. We've been spending 2 weeks in a place, 3 weeks in a place. The idea maybe hopefully next year, depending on what the future looks like, is we might find a spot we really enjoy and be there for a couple months, and kind of just explore more in depth. Because that's the other thing too. When you visit these places, you stumble on all these great things, but when your time is up and you have to leave, you're like, but I didn't get to do all the things, so you end up going back
Yeah.
and over again. So yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, but we're trying to slow it down a little more, but it's still pretty quick.
Do you have a favorite spot so far that's like just been if you were to go back again and again, this is the spot that you would go?
I would have to say probably the Pacific Northwest. It's hard to say any one particular location or campground or state just because they're all so different and they all have something that I love about them. But we
Yeah.
really love the Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana area, Wyoming and Utah. Those are like the states. And then this last summer we went up the northeast coast and we enjoyed Maine, and Kentucky has some beautiful weather too. I mean, it's just there's just so much that people don't realize to see, and get around in this country.
Yeah. So when you guys moved into your RV, what was like the most surprising thing for you when you made that transition from a sticks and bricks kind of lifestyle to we now live on the road and we travel everywhere?
What's surprising is, when we made this decision, we spent the year kind of cleaning out, selling things, having yard sales, getting stuff prepared. And the most surprising thing at that time was how good it felt to clean out and to purge and to realize we had like 2,300 square feet of a house filled to the gills.
Uh-huh.
And we're down to what, 350 now, and maybe and a 10 by 10 storage. We have sentimental stuff we kept, but it was surprising how good it felt to just let go of so many things and just be free of it,
Yeah.
And that's not without its challenges. I mean, you have a very small wardrobe. You don't have all the tools and the things and stuff like that, but you have your necessities. And when you look at what you're getting to do and having given up all the stuff, it was two of us in a huge house with all that stuff. And we're like, why do we have all this? How did we get all of this stuff? And it was just so relieving and invigorating and exciting. And the more we did, I'd walk through the house as we're going days up to a yard sale, just pulling stuff off the walls. I'm like, well, this can go in the yard sale and this can go in the yard sale. And telling people at
Yeah.
holidays and birthday, I'm like, don't buy us anything unless you want to see it in a yard sale. I'm like, if you have to get gifts, which we do not want you to do, but if you have to get gifts, it needs to be spendable or consumable, nothing else. I'm like,
So how's it been meeting people on the road and making that transition from seeing people every day that you know to, meeting new people every day and then trying to keep in touch with people that you knew back home? How have you found balance there?
I think that is something everybody does differently, and it's intentionality. It's being intentional.
Yeah.
I love the community that we found on the road. We've gotten so many great friends, you being one of them and your family. Like, we just
Thank
love
you.
knowing you guys. And like, it's just nice because you might not see each other but once or twice a year, but the connection doesn't fade. You stay in that
Yeah.
zone because you understand this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so I found so many great new friends that I text with, I have chats with, I do different things, and when we're near each other, we try to plan something to get together. So that's been great. And it's just like anything, you have to plan for that. It doesn't just happen. Same thing, with
Yeah.
friends back home. When we were in Fort Myers, which is where we launched from, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, we were there for 2 weeks and trying to like tell everybody that, we're friends with, hey, we're here, let's get together. I do Marco Polo with a couple of friends back home too, just to stay in touch. But it's being intentional with that. And that's the best word I always use for it is even if I was still there, you still have to be focused on making those plans. I had friends that lived a couple streets over and I'd see in like several months apart, because we just needed to sit down and look at calendars. And that's really what it comes down to, is trying to make it work and wanting it to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
that kind of leads me to kind of along the same lines, but different. You talked about you moved from working a corporate job to
Hmm.
taking your business on the road. And, I have kind of a different situation because I took my corporate job on the road with me. Like I do marketing, but I do the same marketing job that I did in a house. I just do it in my RV because I was working remotely already. But
Yeah.
you started like your whole new business. You are doing the dang thing. So what I want to know is how does that work for you? What does a day look like for you and how are you finding customers? How are you building that business and what has been kind of the ways that you've seen that grow or stretch you? I know I just asked you like 18 questions because I have
Sorry.
so many questions, and so I'm so sorry. So let's start
No.
with, hey, you started a new business. Congratulations on that, first of
Yeah.
all. That's always an undertaking for anyone, whether they're in a
Yeah.
house or on the road. So that's huge.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thanks.
first of all. And then second of all, what's been different for you from working corporate to owning your own business? What has been kind of the change for you?
Yeah. So I've done marketing and public relations for over 20 years. Love it. It's, no matter where you work, it's different every day. You just have different experiences, different things come up. And I always worked for somebody. I never in a million years dreamed I'd start my own business or do anything of that nature. And when we were looking at this, the job I had at the time was willing to let me be remote, but I needed to be on site about 2 or 3 months out of the year. And that just it didn't give me the freedom that I wanted, even when we were going into, like,
Yeah.
national parks, I would be getting calls and texts, even if I'd taken PTO, it just I wasn't getting that breakaway that I needed to experience and enjoy everything.
Yeah.
And no fault of theirs, it was a great company, is a great company. It just wasn't the right fit anymore for either side. And so, I stayed on for several months after I turned in a notice just to help them kind of get to that point. But we thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's try it. My husband, has his income through retirement. And so we knew we had some, security there, but then let's just see what happens if we get this going. So of course, in my mid to late 40s is when I decide let's just do something completely different and new and see if it works out. Um, and I'm like, that seems like a good idea.
It's the perfect time.
No. And so I'd always worked for somebody. The challenge going from that into consulting is, you only answer to yourself. There's nobody that's necessarily, I mean, you answer to clients, so that is definitely there still, but you build your schedule. Nobody expects for you to log on at 8 a.m. or, be available for a meeting at certain times. So it's making sure
Yeah.
that I plan my day so that I'm getting stuff done for any of the clients that they need done. Because having different clients too means, I have to switch gears and switch mindsets. Several of the clients are in different industries. I have some that are in the camping industry. I have some that are in restaurants. I have a magazine one that I work with. So there's just a lot of different types of industries and backgrounds that I'm working with. And so trying to make sure that I'm planning for that accordingly. On the flip side, the benefits to this is having complete control over my schedule and the freedom to do work I really enjoy. Whenever you work
Yeah.
for a company, you have the task that you have, and then there's always that line item of and others to be assigned as they come about. Sometimes you're not as big of a fan of those responsibilities. So knowing that the projects I do are ones that I enjoy doing, allow me to be creative and kind of just be different, and share my skills. Got a master's degree in public relations. I'm accredited in public relations, and I'm a certified PR counselor in the state of Florida. So I thought, well, I put all this time and effort and education into this thing. Let's see what it does when I go out on my own. And it's just nice to help smaller businesses or individuals kind of get the same support when it comes to marketing, branding, public relations that a big company would get, but they don't have to have an
Yeah.
in-house person. Like they can just say, I
Yeah.
just need help with this one thing. And so, it's nice to be able to do that. And the thing that got me clients, to start with is the relationships that I'd built over the years with people in Southwest Florida, because a lot of my clients are based out of Southwest Florida and just people that know me. That's one of the things that I preach about to everybody is it's relationships. Even if you find that there's a connection between somebody here and somebody over here that has nothing to do and will benefit you in no way at all, but you can still connect them, then why not? Because that's just going to help them succeed. So it's the relationship building. It's always trying to think of who needs certain services, who needs certain things. Can I connect people? Can they connect people to me when they need to? It's just trying to get that out there. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun. Of course, you know, the flip side also with being like an entrepreneur, I guess, or a consultant on your own is some days you're like, oh my God, this is exciting. I love it. This is great. I'm so glad I did it. And the other days you're like, what have I done? You just have that roller coaster of,
Yeah.
this is the greatest idea ever. And then what was I thinking? But it's still definitely worth it. And I wouldn't change a thing. June will be 2 years that I launched the business.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you are in your RV.
Hmm.
And I want to talk to you a little bit about the logistics of running a business out of your RV. We talk about, we did an episode last season about what it looks like to work on the road for you because you do have your own business. So I'm sure that you have to think about what the different types of equipment you need or the different types of internet that you need. What kind of steps have you taken to make sure that you're reachable by your clients? I guess is what I'm asking. My biggest question is how many internets do you have, Jess?
We all have so
We
many.
have 2 and a hotspot, but my co-host has 4. How many have you got? This is my favorite question to ask people. How many internets do you
Let's see.
have?
We've got the Verizon business, we've got the Starlink, and if all else fails, we have like the hotspot. And as a backup,
Uh-huh.
in many places, you have the campground Wi-Fi. So, you kind of check and see what's working best with any of them. But yeah, that's,
Yeah,
it keeps you on your toes when you're doing
it
work from
really
the road,
does.
whether it's your own business or working for somebody, because you got to have that internet,
You know,
especially out west.
I my gosh, I know. There's this scene from the sitcom Friends. If any of you have
Hmm.
ever seen Friends, where they're trying to
Never
get a
heard of it.
couch up these stairs. I know,
Yes.
right? No one's ever heard of this. It's such an elusive, like hidden gem of a show.
Right. People
But
should look
there's
it up.
this scene where they're trying to get a couch up the stairs and Ross just keeps yelling pivot.
Pivot.
And I remember when I watched that episode, I was like, "That's hilarious. This is not real life, but that's so funny." But I can not tell you how many times as an RVer that scene has come to mind because I feel like there's so many ways that we have to pivot. Either when I'm working and everything is falling apart electronically, or we're driving down the road and the TPMS monitor is screaming at us that our tire is like at, 842 degrees or, whatever it is. That is the thing that I always think of. So, do you take any steps to make sure that you are pivotable? That's
Yeah.
not a real
All the
word,
steps.
but
I probably said some that aren't real words in this as well. I just make up my own language as we go.
it works. What
Absolutely.
do
I
you do to
mean,
keep yourself flexible with your your business.
Just when you're planning things, you try to look ahead at the calendar and be like, I'm at this campground. Okay, let's look at Google Maps
Mhm.
and see if there's a clear shot for the Starlink. If not, let's see how the internet is, what other people have said. So you're always trying to think ahead. But of course, sometimes things come up. Um, and you just have to flip between them. Even the other day, I was
Yeah.
flipping between the Verizon business and the Starlink, because sometimes one works better than the other. And when we're out west, cell service is very spotty. So that's why we have Starlink, because there's a lot of clear space out there. So, you can usually get that. But one example I had a client meeting and it had been scheduled. My husband had to go actually out of town. So left me, I was in New York at a county park, it's a beautiful park, but he had to fly back to Florida. So I was on my own anyway. And, I'd made plans. I'm like, I'm not a tech person, so I'm going to go to the library and get on this internet. I'd made reservations, I'd done all these things. And then somehow my timing got goofed up and I got the alert that the meeting starts in 10 minutes and I was still in the RV. So I knew that there was good service literally right outside the front gate of the park. And so I jumped in the car and I ran with my laptop over there and I sat in the back seat of the truck, trying to make it not look too obviously that I'm sitting in a car and
Uh-huh.
blurring out everything just so that I'd have a good connection. And it worked. I got to the meeting on time and it worked out well, but that's just it. When you're living this lifestyle, you have to be ready for those snafus and to pivot, because you just don't know when things aren't going to work. And inevitably, Murphy's Law, it's going to fail or break when you need it to work. So, but yeah, we try to use a lot
Yes,
of different
for
ones,
real.
little connections. Um, but it's another thing for it being intentional, having to really look ahead and plan for things. And then of course you also
Well,
probably realize you have the unexpected, like I have a dog over here to the left. Luckily she's been quiet, but you have to also plan with the schedules of people in the rig with you. You're like, you're
uh-huh.
either in the RV while I'm recording and you're quiet, or you're outside and you can come in when I'm done,
Yes, like right now I've got my mouse hovering over the microphone because I know any second this door to my left is going to open and there's a
hmm
bell on it and I'm going to have to hit the mute button really fast or there's going to be a chiming that's going to ring through this recording.
Yeah.
So what about for your business? So you got ready, you were like, these are the services I'm going to offer. These are the things that I feel pretty secure in that I can consult on. These are the things that I can do from the road. Have you had to flex any of that since you got started or have you been able to offer more services or were you pretty ready for all of that and you knew out the gate this is what I'm doing and you were ready to run with it?
Yeah, I think the thing that comes into play here is that, just like I mentioned earlier, you get to kind of do the things you really enjoy. And so of course in marketing and public relations, there's a lot of hats. And you know this. I mean, you learn how to do something, all of a sudden that's become one of your hats. And so there's just a lot of responsibility. And I really enjoy like the branding and reputation management for people and helping businesses or individuals find their target audience, and learning, okay, we found your audience. Now, how do we communicate with that audience? And building these plans that give them measured results. Because that's really what also comes into play for public relations is, you know, it is a campaign plan, a communications plan where you set your goals from the beginning and you make them measurable, and then you set a lot of stop gaps along the way of whatever your timeline is, and at the end if you've been successful or not. And so that's where I think it's important to sit down with a client and say, what are you looking to do? And not what are you wanting to do because somebody else is doing it? What are you looking to do particularly for your business? And so that's where I think that I was able to kind of dive in with my skills and my understanding of, finding those audiences, telling them how to market to them, telling them places that really aren't helping them, whether it's on social media. I help with media relations with magazines and publications, online publications. I also help with social media stuff, helping people to guide and understand how all of the things work together, because it's not just doing one thing that's going to promote anybody's business or services. It's a whole variety of things. It's their website, it's their social media, it's what they're doing on Google, how they're engaging with others and promoting others. And so I try to figure out with clients what their needs are and where I can step into to help. When it comes to videos and graphics and things like that, those are stuff if it's very simple, I can do, but I also have a network of friends that I value and trust and know work very well that I can refer if somebody needs something more in depth that is out of my realm when it comes to like design or things of that nature. But no, I'm here to help businesses find their audiences, figure out what they're trying to accomplish and how to get to that and how to measure it so that you can show that you're doing the things that will get you there. And if, you
Yeah.
know, the reason they have the stop gaps is that if we're halfway through a timeline, say they say 1 year is what we wanted to plan to schedule it to meet this goal, at 6 months, either we're ahead of schedule, behind schedule, or on schedule. Ahead and on are okay, definitely good. But if you're behind, then that's where we stop right then and say, okay, what can we reevaluate? Where can we make changes to get us back on track? Because you don't want to get to the end and say, oh, we didn't make it. I wonder what we did. You want to measure throughout the whole time to say, why didn't we get
Yes.
to that point? And so that's where, I can help in content, writing content for businesses and stuff like that. I can do all of those things as well. So it's really kind of a all over the place thing.
Do you have particular business niches that you prefer to work with, or are you kind of open to um, any type of, I guess, um, the word is escaping me, but like, would you work with a construction company? Would you work with an RV industry business? Would you, or are there, you know, is your specialty party planning businesses, or where do you live in that kind of spectrum of these are the clients that I like?
Well, actually, that's
Took me 12 years
something
to
that
ask that question because I could not think of the word, but that's okay
you're
because
good.
we got there eventually.
We got there. I have to say, it's really fun to work with a bunch of different industries. Like I'd mentioned earlier, you definitely have to plan and switch gears and kind of get your mind focused on one and then switch completely for something different. But that's what's fun about it is you're learning about so many different things. And when you go through the training I've had, so to be accredited in public relations, you learn very in depth the steps of what they call the 10-step communications plan, which is how you build and measure. And what it boils down to is research and measurement and implementation. I mean, it's actually there's a model called RPI, research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. And so it's applying that to any client or any business, whether you're working as a consultant or for a company on your own, it's applying that, I guess, what do you say, formula to any project
Mhm.
that you're working on. So as long as you can get in and research about the company, about the industry, and learn a little bit, you can then take those things and apply them in that plan by plugging them in. So I'm always open to working with any different group, any different type of organization. Just have to give me a little bit of time to get up to speed on understanding some of the basics. I don't have to be the expert in it.
Right.
I just need to understand the very core basics of that industry. And then I can start digging in, saying, your audience is over here. This is where they're on Facebook or they're reading this magazine. We need to kind of do features or target that. So a little bit of everything. I enjoy it because
And
it makes
so
it different.
is is that going to be scalable for the smallest of companies to the largest of companies? You can use that same kind of planning tool and measurement tool for a mom and pop company that's kind of just out the gate to a Fortune 500 company that maybe is looking to rethink their marketing and reevaluate how they are reaching their audience.
Yeah, it can be for any size. Now, for a lot of the clients I work with right now, we don't have it written out because I understand what they're looking to do and I know enough about
Mhm.
their industry that I'm just applying those steps. I haven't written it from start to
Right.
finish. If somebody wants it written from start to finish, it gets a little daunting for somebody to read it because it is probably about 30 pages by the time you get done. And that's probably on the short end. So I think that, no matter what it is, whether it's a single person entity or a small business or a large business, you can apply that to any of those. For me, I don't look to grow my business to add employees or anything. So I try to keep stuff
Mhm.
within my manageable realm. And the other
Mhm.
nice thing for people to know when they're working with me is they're working just with me. That I'm not going to be handing them off to somebody else to handle, their projects or their programs or their campaigns. They're going to be working directly with me and have access to me, with questions and everything of that nature. And the other part of that too is just that being able to pick and choose how much they need from me. So I'm not one that's going to lock
Yeah.
them into a contract and say you have to sign on for a year. If they just need help with one project, we'll do a contract for the one project. And then if you need me again, we'll come back. So they're not locked into anything and it doesn't have to meet a financial requirement. If it's, a couple $100 you need help with on something, then I'm happy to do it and see where I can assist. Because you never know when that's going to grow. And when you do those things, hopefully the results for that company is causing growth, which then means they're going to need you more down the line.
Yeah.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of the plan for it, but all ranges.
So, if someone wanted to start a project with you or wanted to talk to you about the possibility of working with their company, how do they get in touch? And then how does that process begin?
Yeah. So really and truly emailing or calling me, to kind of get things started and get set up. I always like to meet with somebody, an initial consultation, no charge, just talking to figure out what their needs are, make sure I can meet their needs because it's not just a one, it's a two-way street. They have to be happy with me. I need to be able to give them what they need and be able to work with them. And so you've got to find that compatibility. So I always like to
Yeah.
have like an initial phone call or meeting to see what people are looking for and if we can
Yeah.
move forward and how to do that. And then from that point, if it is something that we can work together on, I will make up a proposal based on that conversation and submit it to them for review. And then they can tell me if, they want to do all the things on the proposal, they want to cherry pick things. I try to make it as simple and as, easy as possible for anybody to absorb, both mentally for time, financially for cost and budgets, because I know that that's a big thing, especially when you're a small business or an entrepreneur. So it's trying to figure those things out, but always a free consultation call to figure out what the needs are. Then I submit a proposal. And from that point, we go under contract depending on what the needs might be. So,
That's awesome. Well, where should we send them if they want to get in touch with you? Let's start with the business. So let's say that they want to get in touch about a consulting project. Where should they go?
yes. So I try to hopefully make this simple too. The name of my business is Jess Lifestyle Marketing. And so the website is jesslifestylemarketing.com. And if
Hmm.
they want to email me, also pretty simple, it's Jessica at jesslifestylemarketing.com. So either of those will get to me quickly. If you look on the website, the number on there is my cell. So if people want to text me, they can do that as well. I try to just, I try to meet people where their communication preferences are. If they want to text, call, email, I have availability for all of it.
Okay. And if they want to follow your travel adventures and keep up with all of the beautiful places that you guys are hiking through, where can they
Yeah.
do that?
That is going to be on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And all of those are under the profile The Walkers Wandering.
Is there anything else that we didn't cover about either the Walkers Wandering or just lifestyle marketing that you want to plug or that you want to share with us? I don't want to miss anything.
I think we covered really a lot of it. There's so much. I mean, when it comes to PR and marketing, especially when I'm talking to somebody else that understands it, I could talk all day. So, but everybody's needs are different. So it's best for somebody to just reach out and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" Because maybe the other part too is if after a consultation I know that there's nothing I can do, but I know somebody that can, then I'm going to connect them. So I like to try and help people find the next step even if it's not with me. So, always feel
Yeah,
free to reach out and just have a conversation.
that sounds great. Well, Jess, thank you so much for coming on and setting and having a little nice afternoon chat with me. This was
Yes.
such a lovely day. It really picked up my day. I'm very
Good.
excited about the rest of my day now. If you are interested in getting involved with the podcast, you can reach out at connect@learntorv.com. We are always interested in people who want to share their stories and their adventures on our community spotlight segment. We are also getting ready to start a new segment where we're going to read campfire stories. So if anybody has any new adventures or just that one tale that just of that one pivot story or that one moment that just went a little awry, that, that story that they just keep telling around the campfire and they just want to share it with everybody, you can email that story in to connect@learntorv.com and let us know if we can share your name and we will read it. We've got an episode coming up later in the season where we're going to read all of the stories that we get in, and we're really excited about that. So, Jess, again, thank you so much for joining us, and for everybody listening at home, we hope that you'll join us around the campfire next time.
Thank you.